And before we get started, I was really struck by the theme and the vision for this day, and in particular, when it was announced just before the election in America, it seemed like some of the darkest times I've seen across the world, with COVID and all of these communities, and really connecting with the light that each of us is bringing as part of the Sangha into the world, into the Sangha Day. And we want to start off with this video to share with you for Future Dharma. And the Future Dharma Fund is going to talk about the ordination process in India, where, it's some of the darkest, hardest times of our international Sangha, and making it possible for people to continue to be a light in the world, to really work on the transforming mind and the world, like Ambedkar says. So we'll just go ahead and play that video.
This horrible caste system here in India is more complex and deep than many others. And of course, this is what the great Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar lived to end. And he thought deeply about this for many years. In the end, he decided that the Buddha Dhamma was the best way of changing the mind.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyam pi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyam pi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyam pi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyam pi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyam pi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyam pi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Anatipata veramani Sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Adinnadana veramani Sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Kamesu miccachara veramani Sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Musavada veramani Sikkhapadang samadhiyami, Sura meraya majja pamadatthana veramani Sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Chandradasa pointed out to me that if we each just give 15, 10 pounds a month, it's less than a Netflix subscription. And that would help meet our goal for future Dharma and make this possible. And there's a link in the chat in order to give. So, a light in the world. And the world today needs light more than ever. And I've been finding it personally, harder and harder to find that light, to be a source of light. And one of the things that I was realizing is that if it's me giving this light, and I have to kind of meet the needs of the world, if it's me that has to do it, has to be this person, it becomes a really impossible task. But if I am just myself and more just who I am, and I can just share who I am with the world in friendship, then it's easy. And that friendship just kind of becomes a network of friendships around the world. And so this session is really just a few friends here talking about our friendship. One of the things that I do when in the darkest, most hard times is I turn to my friend Buddhapalita. And Buddhapalita and I used to work together. And we've been through a lot. And I know that, just having been through really good times, really hard times, working together in right livelihood. And now I'm running a business, and I look to Buddhapalita not just as a friend, but as a business advisor, because he taught me about right livelihood, about what it means to build a team. And I don't know, I think anyone who works harder and is more kind, genuinely friendly kind than Buddhapalita. His face just lights up in friendship when I see him. And I just call him just out of the blue. It's one of the few people that I just call whenever I need help, and he's always there. So, Buddhapalita.
Thank you, Ari Drishti. Very kind words. It is a strange time, isn't it? We're the fact that we're meeting like this online from people all over the world at all different time zones is quite extraordinary, I think. And yet, what connects us is, it's those links that we made, perhaps over the course of decades, many months, perhaps in some cases. But I'm very aware that many of the friendships I've made are very important to me, even with these great distances. There are people I keep in contact with through the internet, through Zoom, phone calls that range from England to people in Spain, people in Vancouver. It's an amazing thing that we have, the fact that we've got this ability to do that, this technology, but underlying it is really our connections. It's what keeps me more sort of connected with the ideal, with the Dharma. And personally, it has been a difficult period, this period politically, socially, but also the COVID has had an impact. So there are people like Shantinayaka that I think of, somebody I met, I think almost 30 years ago at Aryaloka, and how over the course of those 30 years, we've had many different overlaps, on retreats, study groups, walks, when he's come to visit us. And those connections really add up to a sense of who Shantinayaka is and his depth of Dharma practice which inspires me. I remember visiting him in San Francisco many years ago when he was doing construction work there at the new center, and how even though he'd worked a very hard, long day of doing very physical labor, he'd still wake up very early in the morning and meditate for at least an hour and a half or two. And that was amazing because, that's the sort of dedication that he has, but also all the things that he's done, within the Sri Ratna, his work in Seattle, helping to Seattle Sangha get going. Well, his work at Aryaloka when we first met, even though he was on vacation, he worked very hard. His work in San Francisco, his work with the men's ordination team, and now his work in Vancouver. He's just a very good friend, not to myself alone, but to many other people. And, Varda, my wife, and I live in Montana. We don't have a lot of order contact except through these means. And it's very important. I feel connected even though we're not physically together. There's a deeper connection that goes to our Dharma practice and being members of Triratna, being members of the same order, having an experience of trying to build a community wherever we are. Even if some of us aren't able to contribute because of isolation, we can still help by keeping connected by any means possible. So here's Shantinaika.
Thanks, Buddha Polita. Thanks very much. When I first came across, it was then Friends of the Western Buddhist Order. I was living in the UK back in, sometime in the 1980s. I really wanted to meditate. That was what I wanted. I didn't want any religious stuff, any Dharma or anything. But the thing that surprised me, that looking back, that really inspired me was the friendship that I met. It was around the London Buddhist Centre in the 1980s. And I was just really taken by the quality of friendship, the spirit of community. And so that's really, the meditation was great, but the friendship, the community was an unexpected gift, something that I'm forever grateful for, and something that a gift from Sangharakshita in a way. It's his emphasis, one of his emphasis, and something that has been very important to me, not just the friendship I received, but trying to be a friend. So about 8 years ago, I was helping to organize the first Pan American Order Convention in Mexico. And we were holding it at the retreat center there, Chintamani. And that's where I met Mokshasi. She was running that retreat center, doing a wonderful job with a great team of women. The food was amazing. And Mokshasi and I have been friends ever since. We met again at Chintamani on another Pan American Order Convention, and then more recently, we've connected through her connections in San Francisco. She's been spending time there. She's living there now. San Francisco is a place that I, at least before pre-COVID, a place I would spend a lot of time in, and connecting there with Mokshasi has been really good. And she's just a very inspiring person. She's always has a smile, and she always has a good word. She's always interested. She has an amazing curiosity. So it's a great pleasure to show some of the places that I know in San Francisco that she didn't know, and introduce her to some of the local delights. And you know, we can't meet right now. The border's closed. I can't get into the States, but living here in Canada. But I know that soon we'll be able to meet again, and I'm looking forward to that day. So yeah, my friend Mokshasi.
Thank you, Shantinayaka. So happy to be sharing this space with you at this time. And yeah, my love for the Sangha, one of the three jewels, because I always felt this love about the Buddha, the Dharma. That was very clear for me, and the Sangha is still something that I needed to polish, that jewel that I didn't feel very much ready to engage in. And so, but yeah, what Shantinayaka was saying, my work at Chintamani at that time was a great introduction to what it means, to what it means, the Sangha, to work in community, and the way that real strong friendships are forged in our daily work and our sharing of our daily life. No place to hide your darker aspects, and yeah, and not having other but to be vulnerable. So yeah, that was a great experience, and that is also where I met Arya Drishti, who is, from my point of view, a gift from the Sangha. I think she was at Chintamani, I think, more than twice, or at least twice. So that is from there I know her, first of all, and yeah, she has a very I don't know, I liked her personality, and it stayed with me, her personality, her person. And in the last convention in Mexico, in Chintamani, one of the things I remember is that of the noise that was going on, because there was some kind of celebration. So in the middle of the night, all the fireworks were going, and Arya Drishti wanted to know, is this going to go on, or what is going to happen, and all that. And we had this back and forth, this conversation, and it was nice. It was great, to have a friend who you really like, and be able to be texting with her and telling her, no, pues this is Mexico, no, hang on, just hang on. And she was okay. For the next message, she was already asleep, even before myself, So that I remember that back and forth. And another situation I remember with her is that one of the times that I was here in San Francisco, where I'm living right now, one time she came to visit, and she stayed at the Buddhist Center. And I found one of the things that I found really great was that she cooked for us one night. She cooked for my wife and I, and she knew the kitchen, and she knew where everything was, all the ingredients, and she made this wonderful dinner, out of nothing and because of nothing. So just as she is, like with this simplicity, not making any fuss about can I do this or not. No, suddenly a wonderful meal appeared, and I don't know, like sharing food with people for me is important, and that was very special in this, as I say, in this forging of friendships. And yeah, she's a light in the world. So to you, Arya Drishti.
Yeah, we are from the US and Canada. Well, that's where we all live now, but we've moved around and, just different international parts of the Sangha here of Triratna. And I was born, I think I was the only one born in the US in this group, but I grew up in Canada. I actually had to come back. I came back to the US to live in community in Missoula, and actually lived with Farida and Leslie. Leslie's about to be ordained. As soon as this COVID is over, we can put a kesa around her. Farida, of course, is now living with Buddhapalada and outside of Missoula in Montana. But I moved there to really connect with Sangha, and that experience of living there with those women really kind of broke down, I think, a lot of my rugged individualism that I think is one of the hard things that I really wanted to get enlightened and create these conditions. But what I really found was people who would bring me soup when I was sick. So I never really realized was a thing. Really sweet. So it seems like this food theme has come up. And then after that, worked in the restaurant at Tipu's Tiger with Buddhapalada, preparing food, as a Buddhist community, a Buddhist-run Right Livelihood, preparing food for people. And I don't know anything harder than preparing food, honestly. But this is one of those things that's easy to do when you're just doing it, when it's not a task, when you're just being yourself. But it is something that connects us.
Well, you cook very well.
Don't tell. Shantinayaka, you talked about digesting the Dharma in this time of COVID and isolation.
Are you still
Tell
standing?
us a bit more about that. Speaking of food, speak of the Dharma.
Oh, it was an image that occurred to me back in early April when we were pretty much locked down here in Vancouver and travel was impossible. And there was, again, part of this community, part of the great Sangha, was everything on offer. There's so much, and we've got Chandra Dasa here, who's been very central in this, but so much on offer online around the world. And I think that's so wonderful, and it's been so helpful for people. But myself, I decided that actually, I really didn't want any input for a while. And this was a perfect opportunity. It was my life here in Vancouver could be quite retreat-like, and I could be on retreat for quite a long time. And I had, the image that occurred to me was of a python or a boa constrictor that had swallowed a deer and just needed to coil up and digest for a while. I had 30-something years of Dharma that was only partially digested, and I really needed to digest what I'd already been given. So that was my practice. But at the same time, I realized that I still needed to connect with people. So that's the other side of what I've been doing, is deepening friendships with people locally in the States, here in England, all the different places I've lived, the different communities I've been involved with. So, and that's been very important too, just being a friend, supporting other people, and talking with them about their lives and the difficulties and the good things that are happening in their lives. So yeah, it was that's what I've been doing. digesting, and it's been a very good time. Lots of time for reflection and meditation. Lots of time for friendship too. Mostly through the screen on Planet Zoom, but that's better than nothing. Yeah. Reaching out to people, well, knowing that Buddhapalita and Varada are up there out there in the Mission Valley, north of Missoula. It's always, touching base with Buddhapalita from time to time, touching base with Arya Drishti and many other friends. Some of them I can see here, from Vancouver. So yeah, it's I still find that that whole myth of of friendship, of community, of Sangha to be a wonderful thing. I mentioned that it was one of the things that I found or discovered when I first came along to Triratna, to WBO as it then was. And it was some years later coming across the Chula Gosinga Sutta, which is that sutta about the three young men in retreat together whom the Buddha visits. And one of the, basically coming out of that sutta, short sutta, is the conditions for harmony, the conditions for Sangha, really. And one of the things that struck me and still strikes me is that one of the conditions, it's usually translated as concord, which is quite good. And the word is, I think, in Pali, something like samagga, which means, I think quite literally, together topmost. And concord is quite a good translation because it means with heart, with hearts together. Actually, the original, go back, that's the meaning of the word. And I think that's such an important part of Sangha. It's not just any old friendship. It's coming together to work, to play, to be friends from, well, together topmost with what's most important in our lives. So, not just a personal project, but a project for all beings. And it's the most wonderful way to come together. And that inspires me still. I'm very, again, gratitude for the Chula Gosinga Sutta, and the years ago, an order member from Ghent in Belgium, actually, Dharma Ketu, who wrote a short article in Shabda. I can't even remember when. Oh, yeah, actually, it was about 15 years ago. But it was Conditions of Harmony in the Spiritual Community was the title. And he just analyzed went through the sutta, and there's the 10 conditions for harmony. And it's just a very good, well, just a good blueprint for engaging with Sangha, for building Sangha. And we used to say, or someone told me many years ago, Sangha is wonderful. It's human beings that are the problem. And so having these conditions for harmony is really, really helpful.
One of the ways that I feel connected with Buddhapalita is the view from his deck, who's often on Facebook, through all kinds of weather, all kinds of animals coming by. It's always refreshing to see that spaciousness and that beauty that surrounds you there. It's especially a jewel on Facebook, where so often It's the opinions and the views that are dividing us. And here we have this beautiful space.
Mm.
It's like the Buddha holding up the flower. It's just take a breath, take in this beauty.
Yeah.
Be here.
Yeah, we're very fortunate, Laura and I, to live where we do. But in a sense, one of the things I'm aware of is, as beautiful as it is, deeper meaning comes from, well, not just our practice of the Dharma, but the connections that we've made. I think I have these group of order member friends who I meet with every week on Zoom, and one of them lives in Spain, the others live in Britain, and myself, we talk about things that are very meaningful to us, how we're changing, what we're working on, what's obstructions are, we're sort of presented with internally and externally. And it's really helpful for me to have that context. So, I think without that kind of inner working, and, many times I feel like I don't work hard enough, or I haven't quite understood myself more deeply, if that's the right way to put it. But it is the help of those friends in the Dharma that help me kind of look a bit more deeply at issues that I might be struggling with. I'll tell you what, though, the views really help. Just have, can just step out and there's just a view of the mountains without anything obstructing them, and it is in a way what you're trying to do internally, have that sort of clarity and vision. Yeah.
The view that breaks through the views.
Right. Yep. I mean, going back to that thing about food, I remember with the restaurant, I had the restaurant, we worked in the restaurant for a little bit under 10 years. And one of the things that gave me a sense of meaning about it was serving people, nourishing food. And I felt it was part of our Dharma practice for everybody who worked there to kind of try and connect with that. There's always washing dishes, there's cutting vegetables, there's the cleaning up afterwards, there's the late nights of cleaning up, there's the multitudes of meetings that we had. But in the end, it was about us working together to do something as simple as feeding people good food. And I think that's what created the community. Even to this day, I think it's more than 10 years since the restaurant is closed. I still get people, either sending me messages or calling me or sending me a message on Facebook saying, how much they appreciated that. And these people aren't even people who practice the Dharma. They're just people who we work together with. So I think we can have a real effect on people, even by the simplest means. I mean, it's a bit difficult now, of course, but with social distancing and all that, but there will come a time when I think we need to kind of reconnect with that, give back, touch people's lives, just with the very basic things that we as Dharma practitioners understand, which is, trying to make an effort to be kind or generous. It's not always easy or possible, but I think that's where we have to begin. I was struck today, I was listening to earlier part of these events about I can't remember the name of the order member, but the order member in Toluca. I was really inspired by what you've said. We've never met, but I felt, wow, what a wonderful thing to do. This, these order members who are moved to an industrial city, spreading the Dharma one person at a time. And I was really touched by that.
You talked about serving that really resonated with the way that I see Makshasi exemplifying that when I met her at Chintamani, is that she also created this space of the food. It wasn't just good. Food was fantastic, but it was also the kindness with which it was prepared and the service that was just emanated from her and her team there. Quite beautiful.
Thank you, Beatrice. Yeah, and that's the thing, no, that what it meant to be in this sangha and working together with people practicing together, no. So we were cooking and preparing the place and serving others, but it was also a lot of fun, no. And we were playing, and in a way it's like when all of us do the puja, no, somehow we are playing to be bodhisattvas, no, and we imagine that we're doing all this for all beings, and we are going to save all beings, no. And sometimes when I do a puja, I say, well, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to give up everything, all my personalities. I'm just getting to know this new personality that is called Mokshasi, and even more newer to me is this new personality that here in the US I'm Latinx, no, and so yes, all those are new, no. So now in a puja saying Aposi, I give up all my personalities. I say, well, am I really ready to do that? But in a way, it's not that important. The point is that we're practicing, no, to do that, and we are practicing together, and we're playing together, no. So it's like right now when I see all of you celebrating the sangha, no, celebrating friendship. I mean, how amazing is that? And seeing you all, just seeing Sadaruchi silently translating for us. Oh, is one of my best friends, and I feel so moved and so connected to her, and seeing Sabine there, and Yuriko somewhere, and Sadajoti, and I don't know, no, and all my friends, to all my Mexican, mi gente de México. And so yeah, as you say, and I don't know if it's because I'm growing old or what, no? I see, because they say that growing old, along with other things like Buddhism, is a fascinating experience. And it's one to look forward to. Even it's the reason your mom told you to look both ways when you cross the street. So I don't know if it's because of that, but as I grow old, I tend to I become more aware of the value of friendship and the value of sangha. It makes me aware also of it helps me get out of myself, no. I don't know, from my point of view, we exist for our fellow friends, no, for our fellow men, no. And so in the first place, for those of whose smiles and welfare all our happiness depends, and then for others we don't even know, no, and like in this sangha, no, that it grows and grows every day. And so every day I try to remind myself that my inner and my outer life depend on the labors of other people, and depend, like this is an example, no, of how my inner and outer life depend of all of you. So I know that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received from this Sangha all these years of being here, no? So yeah. Thank you.
Shasti is a precious gift to us from Mexico. Glad to have her
Thank you.
in San Francisco now.
Thank you.
And wonderful to see those connections kind of across the borders. Even though we don't see each other, we keep those connections of Sangha internationally. And I first came across the FWBO in Melbourne, Australia, 1995. And my first teacher there was Buddhadasa. And when he told me what his name meant, you know, servant of the Buddha, I was kind of shocked, because I thought, you know, servants are really kind of putting yourself lower, and it's not very esteemed. But over time, I really did come to recognize the value of service in the way, Rupalada Makshasi, that you've described it, and witnessed that, really living that, actually being of service. And it's become, to me, one of my, you know, driving principles as well, of being of service to the world. What can I give? Even when in the dark and despair, what can I give? And often I can give friendship. I can reach out. I can talk to others. I can start a conversation. And expressing kindness. I think one of the things that I learned about creating community was came out of a retreat. I believe we held it in '96, and Nalanda West was called. And we were studying the Vimalakirti Nirdesha, the Sangharavastus, and building this Buddha field, building this Buddha land, this community. And the community wasn't, I had these great visions of beautiful retreat centers like Chintamani, or these wonderful restaurants like Tukus Tiger. But the community is built on individuals, it's built on people, it's built on those connections of friendships. And those conditions that create that, how the means of conversion are called as well, the means of unification, and their generosity, kindly speech, beneficial activity, and exemplification. And those are really the touchstone of my practice, and have been for the last few decades, is really going deeper and deeper into those. And even though my business doesn't exist as a Buddhist right livelihood, those principles are at the core of what we do every day with the team that I work with. And so I've shared that with my team, my non-Buddhist coworkers, about what it means to live those values. And, and they've embraced them, even though they're not Buddhist. They've embraced those principles of generosity, kindness, beneficial activity, and exemplification. And even being the only order member in Portland and not having a local center or local Sangha, knowing that the Sangha's out there, knowing that the order is out there, knowing that we can just reach each other through technology, it's always kind of held me in this space, this kind of kind space where I can connect with each individual as friends. I'm so grateful to have this community and this broader space and the connections, international connections. Does anyone have any final words they wish to end on in this conversation?
Going back to the beginning, I was in India once only, back in 1994 when there were some American men were ordained with some Indian men, and I was there for 2 or 3 months. Buddhapalita was there, and it was one of our connections. But those connections, I still have connections with I have friends in India still from that one visit, and I just think that whole dimension of our Sangha, the Indian connection is so it's such an amazing thing. It's so important. I just the appeal of raising this money. I think it's a wonderful thing. Like personally for me, being in India, having Indian friends has just opened up a whole other world in terms of having to look at my own conditioning, what I take as the way things are, and coming into contact with people whose lives are different and whose cultures are different, languages are different. But it really enlarges my world and opens me up, and that's so important. I think it's again, I have a lot of gratitude to Sangharakshita for insisting that we're one Sangha, one community. It brings its difficulties, but that's the wonderful thing. There's the tensions are good, and but just the opportunity that this gives us for having such a broad Sangha spread around the world, the opportunities it gives us for our own expansion, opening up, each one of us. I think it's a great gift.
I haven't been to India, but I have had the joy, the real joy of participating in the training for ordination retreats here in the US and Canada, and just really love the way that people are dedicating their lives to being kind, to being open, to really being vulnerable and learning this Buddha Dharma, making it the center of their lives. And I'm so inspired by the way that Ambedkar describes that in India, of really transforming, from the deepest layers of our being out into the world, a new way of being in the world, a way that's not about protecting ourselves, and not about propping up our own egos or images, but really being authentically who we are in connection, and valuing friendship and valuing people It's wonderful to see, some of the women I've just recently been on retreat with in this group as well. Well, I do encourage everyone to please give to the Future Dharma Fund. The link is in the chat. And we were going to have a short break, about 15 minutes, and you can either stay on or come back into the room. But we'll have a 15-minute break before the puja and the Sutra of Golden Light. So far, when we started, we'd raised just over 13,000 pounds. So I really hope that we get, at least halfway to the goal for the day. If everyone could just give a little bit to get us over that bump. And we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Thank you, my friends, for this conversation. And thank you all for joining us and being a part of this International Sangha and celebration of light.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim. Jai Bhim.
Jai Bhim.
Oh, great to see you, Shantanayaka. Miss you very much.
I made a